Hi, second grade math teachers. We're looking now at day 2 of trades, jumps, and stops. Now, we didn't actually, most classes, I don't believe, finish day 1, which was supposed to include the exploration of sorting the money into 3 separate piles, but then also end with a math congress, or a conversation about how the kids figured it out. So what I would say for day 2 is that we should all start by giving back to the kids the bags of money and their recording sheets, and give them like a few minutes, this being the recording sheet, give them just like a few minutes to remind themselves what the problem was and where they were with it before you convene together for the math congress. Once you get to the math congress, this is you facilitating a conversation between the kids about how they figured it, what they discovered and how they figured it out. So I would project this the worksheet on the board, or have this up somewhere so they can see, and they would have their own copies. And then you can start getting ideas. So hopefully most of the kids figured out that they could sort the paper wrappers as a first step. So I would start with a group that maybe got that far but didn't know what to do with the coins, to have them share how they split up the wrappers, and get everyone to agree that each pile should have 2 of the quarter wrappers and then 1 each of the nickels, dimes, and pennies before moving on. Then bring up a group who was able to figure out equivalent piles by trading. This is what the book recommends. You have to pay pretty careful attention to what the kids are doing to really artfully facilitate a math congress like this. But if you can find a group who can say, well, I knew that a quarter was the same as 5 nickels, so I traded out for that, then you want to be on the side on the board here of writing 2 quarters, and again we're using the numbers, is equal to 5 nickels. So we're doing this for a reason. This is pre-algebra stuff. So as they share information like that, like 5 pennies is this, that should be a 1. 5 pennies is the same as 1 nickel. You're making note of the things that the kids are saying while they're explaining how they traded the stuff out. Then you're going to bring up a group who actually got an answer. And so they're going to share what they found, like the museum trip was the wrappers plus, let's see, 1 dime and 7 nickels and 5 pennies. And then the boat trip was the wrappers. Please use neater handwriting. That, and then this, plus 2 quarters, and then the same thing here. And record what some students got, and have the group then analyze it and see if it works or not. You can get 2 or 3 groups to share their answers before they agree that there's multiple solutions. I'm picking up now with the next activity. This is the first warm-up of day 2, but you'll probably play it after you've had your math congress. And this is the game 20 questions. You said you already talked about it, but I'm going to go through it anyway because I already did all this prep work. And maybe we'll need a refresher next year. So in this game, you have in your hand hidden some coins. You have 2 dimes, 10 pennies, and 4 nickels, but you don't tell the kids that. You tell the kids that you have 50 cents in your hand, and they need to guess what coins you have by asking yes or no questions. That's the 20 questions. So they go through and they ask yes or no questions, like, do you have any dimes, or do you have 5 pennies, and you answer yes or no. And I think the way to set up might be to get like chart paper or on your board, set up the list of questions. I put 10 here. You could go all the way up to 20 or fill them in as they come. But then as they go, ask, fill in any pennies, and then yes, or in this case no, or no, it is yes, haha. And then as they go through, record what their questions are and the yes or no answers, and see if they can get to figure out the exact coins you have before they get to 20 questions. This is a really good opportunity to talk about asking the right questions using the right words when you ask the question, and the difference between do you have any quarters versus do you have 1 quarter versus do you have at least 1 quarter. So language has to be precise here. If the question, for example, was asked, do you have 1 dime? The answer would be no in this case, because you don't have 1 dime, you have 2 dimes. So they have to be really careful and precise in the language that they use, and you can use this as a chance to teach that. You play one round of the game like this, then you play a second round of the game with these different coins that are also worth 50 cents. And then the big reveal is that once you have the answers of, once they figured out what coins are in your hand the first round and the second round, you put up on the board the equivalent equation here, that 2 dimes, 10 pennies, and 4 nickels is equal to 15 pennies, 2 nickels, and 1 quarter. And then you're supposed to have a conversation about what exchanges you did. When you turned away from them for that moment and you changed the coins that were in your hand, what do they think you traded out? So have them start thinking about that. You traded out the dimes, you put the dimes down, you picked up 5 more pennies, and try and see if you can get them to get equivalent exchanges in this conversation. And that is the end of how you play 20 questions. The next activity is a game. This is the game Piggy Bank, and this is how you play. You've got 2 players. They each have their own game board, and they share a recording sheet, and then they have a set of these cards. The cards should be copied onto cardstock ideally, and then cut up into their individual cards. If they're just on paper, that's probably fine too. They just won't last as long. So the first player picks a card. I got 6 cents here, and then I have to take my bag of fake coins and actually place the 6 cents worth on my board. So I could either take 6 pennies in this case, or I could take 1 nickel and 1 penny, and I'm going to just draw them in because I don't have pennies on my computer screen. And so I have 1 nickel and 1 penny, and that's worth 6 cents. And I'm going to write here just 6, oh, rats. No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to, can I delete that? Oh, hang on 1 second. I'm actually going to write in the coins that I have. So in this case, I'm going to write 1 nickel and 1 penny, 1 worth 5 and 1 worth 1. Then the next player is going to take their turn, and they got 8 cents. Great. Okay, so that person can take again like 8 pennies or 1 nickel and 3 pennies, and that is their choice. And I was inconsistent here. When I draw them, I should use this. In this case, it doesn't really matter because they're not really going to be drawing it. They're going to be taking the actual coins. But they have to fill it in on their board and then do the same thing, write it in on the sheet. So 1 nickel and 3 pennies. And then the question is, what symbol do you write here? Greater than or less than or equal to symbol. Now, the long-range goal here is to get kids to compare without having to add up the whole numbers. In the first turn, it's fairly easy because you know 6 and you know 8, and you know that 8 is greater than 6, so that would be the symbol you would draw in. But in what you were working towards is, in their conversation, is to say, like, well, there's a nickel here and a nickel here, so those two we don't even have to look at since those are the same. So we're going to just cover up the nickels, and here we have 1 penny and here we have 3, and 3 is more than 1, so this is why we know that player B's board is greater. Play is going to continue on, and they're going to take the next card. So I got 12 cents here in my next turn, so I'm going to add 12 cents to the board. I'm going to put a dime on the board and 2 pennies. I've switched my notation. But now I'm just going to, for my next line, record everything that's here. So 1 dime and 1 nickel and 3 pennies. And this is, hopefully they're going to have better handwriting than I do. And then the next player gets 15 cents and they do the same thing. 1 of these. one of these, and they write the whole amount that they have. 1 dime, 2 nickels, and 3 pennies. And then you have to compare that as well. Again, trying to use conversation. Like, you could just add up the number on board A and add up the number on board B and see which is bigger, but you're trying to get them to say, to use logic, like, this, both boards have a dime, so I'm not even going to look at that right now. And both boards have 3 pennies, so those are equal, and now we're really just comparing that this one has 1 nickel compared to the 2 nickels here, so we know that this side is greater again. And that is the gist of the game Piggy Bank. You play 8 rounds until your recording sheet is full, and then you would clear the board for a new round. Once all 8 turns are finished, they can then figure out what the total is that they have in each of their piggy banks. So adding up all the coins that are on their board and write that total in as a final step.